The regular hybrid meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District is now called to order. It is Monday, January 4th, 2021. It's 5:15 p.m. Joanne, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst?
Here.
Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Here.
And Commissioner Wright?
Here.
Okay, Happy New Year, everyone. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, it's time for public requests. Brianne has several that were emailed in, so she's going to start us off with that, and then we'll take our requests via the phone after she's finished. Brianne, would you like to start us off?
Commissioners, our first email tonight, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. I feel like we're on this Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? We're good? Okay. Regina Eklund, 5201 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Boca Raton. I'd like to address concerns on the Boca Chica property RFP on tonight's agenda. I realize the main purpose is to clean up this property, which has had minimal maintenance for more than 5 years. While waiting to construct a golf course, the community appreciates your intent to do much needed cleanup and landscape maintenance and make improvements while planning and deciding the best use for these 200+ acres. Secondly, your option to bid pathways indicates you are considering opening the area up for public use in the near future. Please discuss that tonight and consider the size of the pathways and if they will be walking paths, bike paths, or possibly specific areas for walking and other areas for biking. We have an increasing number of children in our community and they use our parking lots for bike riding and skateboarding, which is very unsafe. Designated use paths would be great. Additionally, as you consider public use, it would be a good idea to allow parking on the northwest corner at 2nd Avenue and Clint Moore. The neighboring condos do not want non-residents using their parking lots when going to the park. Get bids to repave and stripe the old parking lot. I also suggest getting an optional bid to put a parking lot on part of the old hotel site, maybe 12 to 20 spaces. It looks like the split rail fence on 2nd Avenue is intended to go right along the street. I suggest moving it back to where the temporary fence is now. People do walk along the west side of 2nd Avenue. Other things to consider in the cleanup, and I bring this up based on your concerns at a previous meeting over the unforeseen and increasing costs for Ocean Strand that were not anticipated going into the project. The tunnel under Clint Moore, repair, maintain, or close. For safety reasons, I'd like to have this tunnel maintained to allow people to walk from north to south property without crossing Clint Moore. Properly inspect and address the irrigation system. It could be more costly than anticipated. Add lighting at the sidewalk on the east side of 2nd Avenue from Jeffrey to Condo 3 property in front of the old hotel site. I spoke to someone from Public Works at the city several years ago, and he informed me it takes years for the city to approve installing any new street lighting. Also consider adding garbage receptacles when open for public use to help keep the property free of litter. I see nothing in the RFP addressing the improvements at the Amato 2nd Avenue entrance, and I realize there are issues concerning ownership and responsibility for the western corner with the San Remo Association. Please provide an update. The dilapidated condition and neglected area is an eyesore to our community. Lastly, I will ask if the property can be referred to as Ocean Breeze, even if it's only a working name until future plans are decided. In the property records, part of it is Boca Chica and a large part is referred to as Delray Manor's replat. In your amended budget, it is referred to as the Northeast Future Park. Our community knows it as Ocean Breeze, and I'd like to hold on to that name and piece of history and our piece of history for now. We appreciate improvements and ongoing maintenance. We look forward to the forthcoming RFI and providing input for future planning of Ocean Breeze. As you go forward, I ask that you do nothing that will inhibit or limit future use plans. Your RFP seems mostly in line with that. Thank you.
Brianne, would you send that to each one of us too, so that we have that in our records, please?
Yes, yes. This is from Michelle Peel. Dear Commissioners, I'd like to add additional information to support naming the property known as Ocean Strand for Gordon Gilbert when it becomes the newest district park in February. I reviewed the naming policies of several other municipalities such as Denver, and I believe naming Ocean Strand for Gordon meets the criteria and goals they espouse. Mr. Gilbert has always had a positive public image, especially appropriate and significant to current and future generations through his 46 years of service in helping to acquire and preserve more than 1,000 acres of green space and promoting parks. His actions of exceptional service on behalf of his community have transcended the ordinary, and based on numerous emails and social media posts that I've seen, his idea has broad public support. I realize that there are some who feel that renaming Gumbo Limo for Gordon would be more appropriate. Certainly he is closely tied with the Nature Center that now has worldwide recognition, especially for its role in sea turtle conservation. But after 30+ years in existence, it seems to me that changing Gumbo Limo's name would be difficult and result in a lot of work to change signage, websites, maps, literature, logos, and other items. It's a great brand as is and should stay that way. However, even more importantly, it is clear that his efforts related to Gumbo Limbo are only a small fraction of what Gordon has accomplished. His real impact to the community is so much more. What he has done to protect and preserve green space in our ever-growing community can never be repeated, and his actions will continue to benefit many future generations to come. Governments and organizations name sites after people both living or dead, so to be able to commemorate Mr. Gilbert's life now when so many agree that he merits this honor seems to make so much sense. His unblemished and stellar reputation can be attested by so many of his peers, government officials, community residents, Boca Raton Historical Society members, and decades of former students. Finally, Mr. Gilbert's decades of community service is a priceless contribution, which could easily be compared to any major donor's contribution. In fact, it would be hard to put a price tag on the results of his lifelong efforts to preservation and conservation. The district may determine that they need a naming policy for the future, but right now you have a timely opportunity to honor a living, contributing member of our community. He truly is a living legend in parks and checks all the boxes identified as best practices and naming policies. Mr. Gilbert's significant lifelong service and contribution, his impeccable reputation, and the overwhelming public support make him an ideal candidate to become the public name for a new park at Ocean Strand. Thank you for considering my analysis and thoughts on your deliberations. I hope you will vote to honor Mr. Gordon by naming this new park for him. We have some additional emails supporting the renaming of the park. And I'm going to read off the list of the names that people that support, and I'll go here with Kathy Cottrell. Please see below these supporting the recommendation to name Gordon Gilbert by naming the Ocean Strand property in his honor. For public record, please include those names listed below as an example of many in support thereof. And we'll include everybody's individual emails as part of this public record, but right now I'll just read off the names of those who support. And those people are Bronwyn DeVillers, Rory Fielding, Ken Imhoff. We have Kaja Gauza, Kathy Cottrell, Michael and Susan Brody, Michelle Peel, Bronwyn, we've mentioned Rory Fielding, Joe Tomasello, Tony Corbin, Michael Adams, Richard Mosley, Everett Hill, Michelle Sparling, Larry Brown, Edward F. Clark, Teresa Pollock Winkle, Tom Cripps, Linda Leonard, Muriel Gatlin, Jana Critchfield, Nancy Schaefer, Barbara Garukas, Michael Hahn, Diane Saturos, Susan Sandy, Tim Valcourt, Mark Tarantino, Aileen Brewer, Ann Langford, Penn Thompson, Meg Nocera, Linda Westfall, Zon Reed, Patty Huber, Kimberly Gonzalez, Stephanie Zaragoza, Browning Hardnett, Susan Pellish, Kathleen Krall, John Holloway, Beverly Raymond, Ken Imhoff, and Jean Bauer. And if I've mispronounced anyone's names, I apologize. But again, we'll make all their emails part of the public record as well. And that's it for the emails.
Okay, do we have any call-ins, Melissa?
Yes.
If you would give your name and address, we would appreciate it. It's not necessary, but it would be appreciated.
Good evening and Happy New Year, Commissioners. My name is Leanne Welch, and I reside at 1011 Southwest 11th Terrace. Although it doesn't sound like you need it, I'm calling in this evening to voice my very enthusiastic support of renaming Ocean Strand in honor of the legendary Gordon Gilbert. Goes without saying, the city would be a very much different and probably less beautiful city if not for Mr. Gilbert's vision, dedication, and his refusal to stand by when developers were beating down the doors. The fact that nearly half of our beautiful coastline is protected from development and preserved forever as public parkland is just one of Mr. Gilbert's legacies. While I still hope that someday we'll be able to build and name a new building, a new classroom, or something at Gumbo Limbo Nature Center in his honor, I think for right now, restoring the 15-acre parcel of land known as Ocean Strand as habitat and passive park and renaming it for Gordon Gilbert is something that can be done now and without hesitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Melissa?
No, I don't see any other hands.
I see a phone icon on my screen.
I don't see any hands raised.
That's Melissa on her phone talking that you see.
Okay.
No, there's no other hands raised.
Brianne, you don't see that either, do you? Okay. All right. Public requests are now closed. It's time for the approval of the minutes of the regular hybrid meeting that was held on December 21st, 2020. The minutes will be found on page 3, or starting on page 3 of your agenda packet. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ernst. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, let's move on to our regular business. The first is the election of officers found on page 11 of your agenda packet. We'll start with chairman, then go to vice chairman, then go to treasurer. So we'll need a motion to nominate. I don't hear you, Bob.
Muted.
Bob, we can't hear you.
I'm not muted.
He's frozen as well.
Frozen too.
Yeah, it is cold in here.
It is cold in here.
I do not, wait a minute. How's that?
Nope.
Wait a minute.
Still says you're muted.
Unmute my video. Are we there?
He's not muted.
No, he's not muted and he's moving,
How about the volume on your
but I can't hear a word
computer?
he's saying.
You know, I used to know how to sign.
Sign.
There was something.
I could almost hear him.
Do I have a better result?
Yay.
Hey, all
Good
right.
deal.
Yeah. I would like to preface my motion to state that I spoke indirectly to Jake because I wanted to make this a short nomination because I think we have a great team. And he said, no, I couldn't make one motion for the entire team. So I'll start with the chairman, is that I would like to endorse and nominate our current chairman, Susie Vogelsang, as the chairman for our next year.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now, vice chairman is the next. I need a motion for vice chairman.
I don't want to hog the meeting tonight, but I previously stated my intention to keep this team intact, and I'd like to nominate Aaron Wright as vice chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Joanne, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. And last but not least is the treasurer.
May I make it a trifecta?
Yes, you may.
Is that I think that the person who is currently holding the position as treasurer has done a fantastic job since he came on the council and has taken over that position. And I'd like to nominate current treasurer Craig Ernst in this position.
Do we need to make that a motion?
Or make the motion.
Okay, good. Thank you. And do I have a second here?
Second. I'm waiting
Thank
for
you.
somebody else to second.
I did,
And-
but I was on mute. Sorry.
Do we have any discussion? Okay. Joanne, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, well, the band is back together. Okay, thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much for supporting the nominations. I think we've got a great group in place, and I want to keep them together. And I hope that I wasn't obnoxious in my stating that initially, but I really like the position that everybody's in currently, and I'm glad that Craig and Aaron stepped up and remained in that position. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, item number 2, employee job descriptions found on page 12. Brianne, would you lead us off on this, please? I can't hear you. I can't hear.
We have one person on public comment that was trying to get their hand raised and could not. Do
Okay,
you want to go back to public comment and allow that one time?
we can do that since this is a unique situation.
Okay. Melissa, if you'll unmute Ms. Feinberg. All right, Ms. Feinberg, you're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, terrific. All right, thank you very much. I had called in and was obviously having difficulty doing this when you were having public comments, but I appreciate the opportunity. I was disappointed last week with the last meeting with the attorney's response regarding deleting section G on page 15 of the proposed ILA amendment that referred to the Inspector General's office and the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. I know that this commission is governed by the State Board of Ethics. Every government and taxing district in the state of Florida is governed by that entity. But the Palm Beach County Ethics Commission is much stricter. The city is governed by it, and this commission should be governed under it. If it had been, I think that it would have saved taxpayers millions of dollars.
Hear, hear.
I would like to hear what each commissioner, to have them state their position on whether they favor or not the transparency afforded by joining the Palm Beach County Ethics Commission and being governed by that body. Thank you.
Thank you. When it comes to reports, commissioners, you may respond to Mrs. Feinberg. Are there any other hands up?
That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's revisit the job descriptions found on page 12 for the facilities manager and for the executive assistant. Brianne?
Commissioners, these are the job descriptions that we've worked on and we've visited several times over the course of some previous meetings. The job descriptions have pay ranges which are consistent with the city and other municipalities, and I'd submit these for approval tonight, and then we can move forward on implementing the evaluation program based upon these job descriptions. These descriptions aren't as adopted tonight. Obviously, we can go back in future years or change them and obviously make revisions as time goes on. So when I say that, I say they're set in stone if you approve them, but they're not. They're set in stone, and it's a document to work from in the future should we need to change them or adapt them for the positions as they change for the future.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on this? I have one on Melissa's, the facilities manager, on the first monthly inspections of all district-owned properties.
Mhm.
I'd like to include interior and exterior so that there is not any question about everything getting done once a month.
Okay,
Okay?
we'll do that.
Anything else, commissioners? Do I hear a motion to adopt?
Just one comment.
Yes, Mr. Rollins.
Madam Chairman, is that when I talked to Brianne about this and whether it's a related task or knowledge skills, I thought continuing education of this in this area of practice was important to stay current with the safety issues and other issues related to the maintenance of our facilities. And I think Brian mentioned that Melissa had done some work in that area. And I want to encourage that, because I want to make sure that we make that dollars available to education, because I think it's important that our staff keep up with safety issues, as well as anything else relative to our property from a maintenance or safety issue.
Are you also saying this about the executive assistant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if we could add that,
Yes.
Brianne,
Yes.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Engel.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think continuing education is important, but I think we need to memorialize that it will be any continuing education relative to the position should be at the expense of the district, and I think should be memorialized in the job description.
Okay. Paid by the district. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent point. Anything else? We will need a motion to adopt these descriptions,
So moved.
and a second,
Second.
please.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion?
Just for the record, Madam Chair, that motion would be to adopt the descriptions as amended.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsong,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, good. Number 3 on your agenda is the Explorium exhibit contract amendments found on page 15. Brianne?
Commissioners, I want to first thank Kate Lasher. She worked with OMSI and with me getting some of these details ironed out. With the Explorium still closed and no timeline as far as when it will reopen, the exhibit that was scheduled in January, we have an opportunity to save spending any more money on that exhibit, as well as the shipping costs. We would only be paying for storage costs on that exhibit with these amendments. And then because these two were contracted with a savings for both of them, it was a discounted rate to get both of them. They would also allow for the fall exhibit to be moved back a year. So surely by fall of 2022, hopefully the Explorium is up and running and back to normal operations. But we would have an opportunity to move that exhibit to there. So this fiscal year, we had budgeted in our district operations budget about $80,000 for Explorium exhibits. With these amendments, we would look at spending approximately $2,500 for the storage fees of the design zone exhibit, and the rest would come out of the future exhibits would come out of the next fiscal year. So we are looking to a motion tonight to accept these amendments.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Mr. Engel?
Yeah. So what's happening here is we'll have the option, should the Explorium open in June, for example, we'll have the option to exhibit what was supposed to be exhibited, what was supposed to be the spring 2021 exhibit.
No. What will happen with the spring 21 exhibit is that's done. We won't get that exhibit back.
Okay.
When the Explorium opens, they'll have all their regular permanent exhibits and anything new that they've built. And I've seen some of the stuff that they've been working on while they've been closed. So they'll have those exhibits available to the public, which hopefully everybody is ready to enjoy again.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Questions? Okay,
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Ernst.
It's Brianne, the deferral of the contract was pushed till the fall of 2022.
Mhm.
Were you able to get any flexibility that if we're not open by fall 2022, is there any flexibility with it, or is it take it or leave it?
We can push that. The holidays made it hard to get a conversation on that, but we can certainly ask for that.
Okay. And is there a cancellation clause at all in it?
No, there's no cancellation clause. Like to get our money fully back, no.
So if you do this, you're committed to 2 future years of contracts.
No, we're just moving this one to fall 2022. The other
Got it.
one is done, it's canceled. They're going to forgo the $6,500 plus the shipping fees.
Okay.
So that'll be done. And it just moves. I am very hopeful that by fall of 2022, we have a Science Explorium up and running normal operations at that point.
Okay, I mean, I guess going forward, I'd recommend that if you could add something that is pandemic related, you know,
Yes.
if we're under a state of emergency and we know 6 months in advance, we're out.
Yeah,
We just have to be out of these things.
100% agree. Any future contracts will definitely contemplate all this. These were just amendments to the ones that were signed almost 2 years ago.
Right, but I'm saying we're signing one now, so in
Yes.
this amendment, you need to add something that gives you an out if we are not out of this pandemic.
I don't believe they're going to accept that for these, but in future contracts, we can definitely include that.
Well, I think you ought to ask for it now because this is the time to, or get out of it.
Okay.
So what we could do is we could, we have two documents here. One for giving the 6,500 for this year and the shipping costs.
The amendments were done kind of as a combo. So if we approve one, I'm not sure that they would accept them unless we approve both of them.
So would you prefer to defer this to our next meeting until she has a chance to talk to the
Yes, I think
exhibits?
you have to be, I mean, it's amicable.
The problem is that we're expected to accept the January exhibit is coming. If we don't cancel it and get this, we'll be paying that 6,500. That's coming this month. So, I mean, I don't mean to force this, but it's a kind of a time crunch issue with these agreements.
So you can take our authority to cancel it right now, right?
Well, we have a contract that says that we're going to accept this exhibit this month, Design Zone, in January.
So
Well-
I think what you're saying is all we're liable for 2021 is $2,500.
About
Correct.
that for storage, yes.
Okay. For 2022, we're liable for the entire cost of the 2022 exhibit.
Well,
Is
we
that
paid
correct?
some of it. We paid some of it. We'll start paying the next cost of that. December of 2021 is when we pay the next payment for that fall exhibit, because we always prepay. So we've already paid some amount.
We've paid almost $25,000, around $25,000
Right.
on that one.
Well, look, my feeling is these contracts are very expensive and they're negotiated in the terms of this company, Oregon Museum. And I think your opportunity is to talk to them now and to, you know, confirm it or cancel them for everything in the future, period. And find another alternative. Because we wasted, there was no forgiveness for what we lost this past year in 2021. And now it's, you know, kindly asking for forgiveness in 2022. You know, I'm sorry, but I think, you know, there has to be kind of a hard line with them to say, you know, we're not in a position to work with them if they're not willing to work with us.
Is this the only game in town, Brianne, as far as exhibits?
Well, we've had a long-standing relationship with them. We've gotten a lot of exhibits from them. There's other companies that have exhibits. A lot of them are actually going out of business because of the pandemic. So
Exactly. No, I don't know if you prepaid it, so I don't even know if they're going to be around in business.
right.
Mr. Rollins, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. What is the cancellation clause that we signed in that contract? I know there was a deferment, I think, or cancellation should we have a hurricane during the time that an exhibit's coming in, and that may have just been a deferment, not an out-and-out cancellation.
Right. Right.
Uh-huh.
That was that.
A
There's
deferment.
not, right.
So there's no cancellation provisions in these contracts?
There's not a pandemic related cancellation. Is that I mean, I feel like that's kind of what the concern is.
I think that's a concern. I think Craig raised a good question with that. And is there any hurry to get this approved? Is it they're offering us just the storage fees rather than the $6,500 that is due?
Plus the shipping that we would have to pay for it, which
Plus
is
the
around
shipping.
6,000.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, so this is for an exhibit that would be here the spring of 2021. Is that?
This is the exhibit that's coming this month, yes.
Okay. And is that the storage fee? Is that storage here in our area?
No, it's where it is currently. They'll
Okay.
store it there, and then whoever gets it next would pay for the shipping wherever they're going.
Okay. Well, you don't ask, you don't get.
Okay.
know.
Do you want to, we're agreeing that we want to cancel this one, but we're not ready to sign off on the other one.
Is that what you want, Mr. Ernst?
I think the conversation is not complete, is what I would say. Is yes, we want to cancel this one. Yes, we want to defer till 2022, but we need some flexibility of not taking the 2022 if we're still in some kind of pandemic or some kind of martial environment where we cannot even open the facility that we operate.
Question, have we
Yes.
made a commitment for 2022 yet?
We're making that now.
That's,
This
well,
would be the commitment.
Well,
We
yeah.
have no other exhibits.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is maybe we should handle 2021 and 2022 separately.
Right.
And, agree to pay storage charges for 2021
Okay.
and defer 2022 for another month till we can get some kind of certainty on whether or not the exhibit company is willing to have some flexibility in a situation where we might not be able to reopen.
Okay.
okay, so could we get a motion to accept the 2021 exhibit conditions? And then we'll defer the other one until a later meeting, possibly our next meeting or the first one in February.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, just for clarification, we've already paid in roughly what, $24,000 toward this exhibit?
Yes.
26.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I think
No, we haven't paid the, yeah.
13 and 13 is 26.
We didn't pay the final payment was the only, it looks like we have, but
right, but we've
yes,
made
26, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
we've made-
yes.
we
I'm
made
looking at the other one.
Yeah, four installment paying. So I think we have to ride this one out.
Okay. Any other comments? Joanne, would you do the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, the item number 4 is the renaming of Ocean Strand found on page 20 of your agenda packet. We have had numerous comments come in, and I'm fully in favor of renaming the park, something to do with Gordon Gilbert, the preserve, whatever we decide. And I think as long as we can honor him while he's celebrating his 90th birthday, I think that would be a testament, but that's only one person. So commissioners, please give me your opinions. Yes, Mr. Rollins.
My position comes from a longtime relationship with Gordon, 10 years on the Parks and Recreation Board. And I served with him on the Beach and Park District far longer than most any individuals. I'll never break his record, even though I've been here for 25 years at the moment. I first came to Boca in 77, and the first picture I saw was of Gordon Gilbert in the now out of business Boca News with 4 or 5 students standing ankle deep in the intercoastal with a seine. And it was Gordon's biology class and some of the kids there that were right behind Gumbo Limbo. When I think of Gordon, I think of Gordon Limbo because he was a major component to the initial start of that program. He used that as a teaching tool when he was a teacher at Boca High. A lot of friends that I know went to Boca High and had Gordon for biology.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a person that I admire most with what he's done for our community. With that said, I think Gordon is kind of like a North Star and someone that you could plan your trip, sail your ship by, the North Star that he's laid out there. I have a lot of respect for Gordon, but I'm unfortunately not behind this initiative because I really feel like that there needs to be something closer aligned to Gumbo Limbo. And renaming a park property, I think, is a big deal. And not that I don't think Gordon isn't a big deal. I do. I think he is. But looking through the different different communities' way that they go about naming facilities, and I'm not worried about, you know, Gordon being alive while we do it. His life is well played out, so we know Gordon's history. We know there's no skeletons in the closet, so that's not what's caused me to have that deferment. I just think that we need to have a program in place. The city, I know, is very reluctant to name parks after folks, especially after they've been in place for a while. And I think someone mentioned that. And I wasn't suggesting for a moment that we rename Gumbo Limbo for Gordon because people recognize that name. I just think that a memorial to Gordon would be a better way to honor Gordon. Don Capron was a longtime member of our commission, and we have a plaque down at the beach honoring his service to the community. Alan Alford Red Reef Golf Course that was named after him is still known as Red Reef Golf Course. I just really feel like that a better memorial to Gordon would be at Gumbo Limbo in some form or fashion. I know there's planning in place to put some a turtle triage facility there at Gumbo Limbo. I think that would be an honorarium right there. I know it's not now, I know it's not here, but I think it's easier to go forward with a memorial plaque of some sort for Gordon at Gumbo Limbo, recognizing his service. And so I would have an easier time supporting that. And I want to say again, I served many years with Gordon. I have the utmost respect for this person, and my not supporting this initiative doesn't mean that I've changed my opinion about Gordon. That's not the case. I just don't feel like this is appropriate way to honor him. I think it'd be better with a memorial at Gumbo Limbo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Engel, your hand is up.
I understand where Commissioner Rollins is coming from. And you see situations like that all over the place. I wonder how many people here know that 6th Avenue in Manhattan, the official name is Avenue of the Americas. And if you put 6th Avenue on a piece of mail going to Manhattan, it may or may not get to a 6th Avenue address. But on the other hand, I don't know that a plaque does Gordon Gilbert justice. He's kind of like the George Washington of the Beach and Park District. So while, yeah, we could rename Ocean Strand, Gordon Gilbert, Ocean Strand Reserve or Park or what have you. And I think naming the park after him would be a fitting memorial. I can't see, but again, having said that, I understand Commissioner Rollins' point. I can't see just putting a plaque somewhere. You know, how many people are going to see a plaque? You know, when people come into Gordon Gilbert Park, they're going to see the name Gordon Gilbert Park. You know, I'm kind of betwixt and between. I think naming the park after him is a great idea, but I want it to be known from that point on as Gordon Gilbert Park or whatever suffix we choose to add.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Mr. Ernst?
Well, this is a very tough subject. And I think first part is there's education around Gordon that needs additional education for me. I've only met Gordon at Gumbo Limbo. I've met him passively at meetings here. there is no question Gordon's legacy precedes him, both within the district, within Boca High, and to our community. That all said, he clearly has a lot of ties to Gumbo Limbo and to what happened at Gumbo Limbo. So there's, to me, it's a closer tie to Gumbo Limbo than Ocean Strand. I'm not totally familiar with his role as it related to Ocean Strand. And to also say, you know, naming a park is a very, very big deal, and he's probably worthy of it. But what gives me some pause for concern is, you know, I've been watching and helpful in supporting the tower build at Gumbo Limbo. And the same token, you have someone who's a family who is making a very large donation for it. And if you do this to Ocean Strand, you're giving away something even bigger. And there should be some kind of, you know, donation to it is another thought. And I know it's a monetizing it, but we're not in a real position to be giving things away. And I think maybe we should, maybe we don't. I'm not quite sure, but for right now, I'd rather defer the subject. And I feel like it's been kind of pushed upon us that we should rename the park. And to be honest with you, I think we have many priorities. Among them, just get the park open. And once we get this park open, I wouldn't want to rule it out because I know there is a time and a place to honor him. And my other question would be is, are we following Florida statutes about honoring a living person? There has to be a vetting process, because one thing we're seeing today is we're rethinking everything that was renamed from many years ago. We cannot judge history by today's standards, but we have to be careful and conscious of any kind of naming of a park. And on the little bit I know of Gordon, he probably exemplifies everything good of this community and is probably worthy of, but we have to go through a vetting process.
Mr. Horowitz, would you answer Mr. Ernst's questions about the legality?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair. And we have looked at this issue a little bit following the discussion at the last board meeting. As we know, the district does not have a policy or procedure in place with regards to naming public facilities, public parks, public buildings. Many cities, many different agencies have those types of procedures. There is a statute that speaks to naming state parks and state facilities after living individuals. It's not permitted as it relates to state facilities. There are a number of state facilities in Palm Beach County. You know that there's the Dickinson State Park, John MacArthur State Park are all state facilities, and there are certain requirements that come along with all different state parks. Ocean Strand and our facilities don't necessarily fall under that provision. There's a question as to whether or not they're considered state parks, and the statute that deals with that particular provision has never been interpreted in the context of a special district. It's never been interpreted in the context of a municipality. That's not to say that we wouldn't or somebody couldn't raise that issue, but we would have some a strong legal position that we're not constrained by that provision and that we don't fall as a state park under that particular statutory provision.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright, we'd like to hear from you too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same, I'm kind of in the same position as Craig. And Steve, I don't know Gordon as well as, let's say, Bob or you. I do know what he's done, obviously, and appreciate everything, but it kind of puts us, I feel like it is being kind of pushed on us at kind of like the last minute. And, since I've been on the board, we haven't had to name a park or anything like that. So I'm kind of, and the fact that he's much more connected to Gumbo Limbo, but it is in the same, preserving green space. So I'm kind of, I think it would be great to honor him in a way by naming a park after him. I think that would be fantastic, especially the fact that it's his 90th birthday. But I also don't want to rush into anything that's going to be permanent. It's going to be forever. And would it be more appropriate to connect him to Gumbo Limbo versus Ocean Strand? I don't know. I'm kind of just in between at the moment.
Okay. Well, there is a plaque at Gumbo Limbo with his name on it. So, Mr. Engel?
I just had a thought, for whatever this is worth, what if we put up not just a plaque, but a bust of Gordon? So it'd be like Head and Shoulders on a stand, on a permanent stand. It could be at Ocean Strand. It could be at Gumbo Limbo. But I feel we need to do something more than just, put up a plaque to remember him by. A plaque, people look at it, it doesn't garner a whole lot of attention. Some kind of statuary, like I said, a bust on a stand, would definitely garner more attention and give him more of the recognition he deserves. And that could be done, like I said, Ocean Strand or Gumbo Limbo.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Rollins.
I was thinking back when I first got on the commission, there were several people that I worked with. Elaine Kleinman, I think you know Sue, who was original commissioner. Dirk Smith, an original commissioner. Al Travasos. Al Travasos was in large part responsible for Patch Reef. And these people served the community unselfishly of their time, and just like Gordon has. My thought about something at Gumbo Limbo was a little more than just a memorial plaque, Steve. I should have clarified. I know there's a triage center that's going to be part of the development. Is that right, Brianne? That's coming online. And to me, I would name the triage center after Gordon Gilbert. I know it needs more than just a commemorative plaque, but I don't know that I can support without having gone through the process of setting in place a policy, because once we do this, we've kind of set a policy of some sort. And I really think we need to have a policy in place before we take this initiative. And I do believe Gordon needs to be honored in some fashion, but I'm not convinced that it's appropriate at this point to name Ocean Strand after Gordon, although I do recognize and honor his commitments to our community and our green space that he has preserved, along with the other commissioners that I've mentioned.
Okay, should we defer this item then, commissioners? Would you prefer to do that to a later date?
Yeah, pending formulation of some kind of permanent policy on naming property or buildings on properties.
Mr. Ernst, are you in agreement?
Well, I mean, I don't want us to be re-steer staff to work on a policy for naming things and then it comes back in February. I think the answer right now is being thrust upon us, and it's really, I'm saying no. I think we should defer it for a longer period. It's just not the immediate priority for the district and the staff. And
I'm not placing the timeline on it. I'm saying a policy should be in place. When that policy is in place is up to the board and really depending on the workload of the staff.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Wright.
Do we know when that triage center is planned for? Is it in the works? Is it in the design? Can it be renamed for him during the planning phases?
It was I'm sorry, I was in the city CIP for next year. I could certainly find out where they are on that timeline. That was in the budget that they submitted last year. That it was scheduled for next fiscal year.
Also, Gumbo Limbo is a city property. Would we be able to name a building on city property?
Most likely not, but they could certainly, the city has named things after people, so it could be an initiative brought forward to them. Maybe an arrangement with the Friends of Gumbo Limbo or something to, I think that they're donating a sum of money for that triage, so maybe they could do that, some sort of part of that agreement would be naming it that. Similar to the tower.
Effort.
Right, similar to what we did at the tower.
Yeah, it should be a fundraising effort.
Yeah, I know the
Have we
city.
heard from, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there has been naming by the city. You have James Rutherford Community Center at Patch Reef. Lake Wyman is actually James A. Rutherford Park. And Chief Withrow has a fire station named after him. So I know the city has that prerogatives to do that. Whether or
Well,
not
Spanish
they,
River is called Countess de Hornleon Park, right?
Countess de
Yes.
Hornley Park, that was named for something that we were supposed to have received something in return for that never happened. I think it should be named the Aaron Wright Memorial Park. I see you're there enough, Aaron.
I am, yes.
Yeah, but let's not make it memorial. Let's make it just
Right?
the Aaron Wright
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah,
And
right there.
just for the record, because I was at the dedication for Countess de Hornley Park, the Countess was alive. She was present at the naming, at the
Yeah, but
dedication.
that's not a state park. And what
No, I'm
Jacob was
saying-
referring.
What I'm saying is the city has a policy wherein naming after living individuals is allowed. So
Steve's got a
it's
good point.
possible that we could do the same thing and be synchronous with what the city is doing.
That's a good point. I mean, to petition the city to name the triage center at Gumbo Limbo, since it's their property. Okay, all righty. So since we don't have a motion, let's defer this and look into it more. And Brianne, could you discuss this with the city to see if they are willing to do any type of naming of part of the renovations at Gumbo Limbo?
Yes, sure will.
Okay, sounds good.
One quick question.
Yes, Erin.
Yeah, have we heard from the director of the Friends on any of this? Have they communicated with Brianne or?
He was on the list of
city
people.
or-
He was on the list of people that supported Ocean Strand.
Right, well, I know, but like maybe he should get involved in communicating, with the city to see if, they could work with them in renaming the turtle facility
Yes, and I do
instead of
think the
us
city,
being,
I think the city's working on a proclamation in honor of his birthday as well for an immediate recognition. So I think they're working on something like that, just trying to do that within the confines of the COVID restrictions.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
could we
Rollins.
not do a similar proclamation for Mr. Gilbert?
I think is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we do
Okay.
a similar proclamation for Mr. Gilbert, recognizing the 28 and a half years of service to the district.
Excellent point. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I think Mr. Engel was first. Is there any other discussion about the proclamation, how you'd like it worded? Would you like to work with Brianne on that?
I'll write something and submit that to Mr. Rollins, Commissioner
Okay.
Rollins.
Brianne's a great wordsmith. I have confidence
She
in her
is.
putting something very good together.
Thanks, she is. Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes,
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes,
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes?
Commissioner Wright?
yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Brianne, his birthday's the 20th, I believe, so we need to have something for our next meeting. The next item, number 5, is the Bocatica Maintenance and Beautification RFP. It's found on page 43 of your agenda packet. Brianne?
Commissioners, we brought this forward today, and there's still some things that we want to iron out in this. We wanted to get some feedback from you all. There's some things that I want to kind of add to this agreement, and I've heard from Commissioner Rollins already. We're going to update some of the insurance information based on his input, and I think everybody agrees that he has the professional insight to build up some of the stuff that we have and some of the language we have as far as insurance goes. So we want to make some changes there. I wanted to let everybody know that the Florida Department of Transportation project that's going to close the overpass at Clintmore is not anticipated to encroach on our property at all. That being said, it's about a 15-month project. They're supposed to start this month or next month, and then it'll be 15 months, barring any setbacks for them. So we don't anticipate it involving any part of our property. They haven't asked to use it for anything. So we think it would be okay to move forward with putting some of the fencing up there. If they did happen to go on our property and cause any damage, they would be responsible for replacing that. And also, we also want to clean up some of the language as far as the split rail fence and make sure it's consistent with the specifications of the fencing at our other parks. So we want to add those things to this RFP as it's written tonight. Ms. Eklund mentioned that we had the cart paths in there, and what we did was have an option for prospective bidders to put how much it would cost to restore the current cart paths, only for the sake of renovating what's there instead of adding something new that may require additional changes and things like that. So we can also, we just did that as an option to look at, and we can certainly discuss that tonight if that's something the board wanted to look at, or just remove altogether.
I have a question, Brianne. If we could, instead of doing the sod with the temporary irrigation, if there is some xeriscape type of option for instead of trying to sod it and trying to keep it up.
We can look at that. The permit, I think when we demo buildings, requires for ground cover, so we can look at what those options are and see if there's some xeriscaping options.
And how about the price per tree versus just an overall blanket there, bid for all the trees? If we could find out how much per tree.
We could do that.
Is that
could also-
possible?
Yeah, and we can add a price per linear foot of the fence too, to give us a better view of what each prospective bidder is charging.
Okay. And then as far as when you have your meeting with the prospective contractors, find out if they're going to grind the stumps or just cut things off at the ground level and what the ramifications are, please.
Do you want us to add some language as far as how the trees are removed? Any dead trees should be ground out? We can add that to this and certainly cover that at a pre-construction meeting too.
Well, I don't know what the advantages are of one versus the other. I mean, I want to keep it as safe as possible for the public. Anybody who's walking out there, I don't want them tripping over roots in case they haven't dug things up. Yes,
Madam
Mr.
Chairman,
Rollins.
I thought I read in there somewhere there was reference to the contractor doing fairly current maintenance when they remove items, whether it was grinding them up or putting them in a container, just to avoid that very thing you're talking about.
Okay.
So I don't know that I'm necessarily concerned about whether they grind it up, just so long as they remove it and keep it out of the way of becoming a public hazard.
Mr. Ernst, do you have anything to add?
Just on the tree part of it, it depends where the tree is and
Anything with the RFP.
No, I think it's a good start. We have to see what we get. Let's not be too constraining and give staff flexibility to sort through it and compartmentalize it. So I think the other option I mentioned to Brianne is possibly, if you get to the point where you have 3 finalists, let them take a section and compare what they do. This is a very artistic type thing that could, come into a lot of expense, but we need to be careful with whatever we contract for.
Absolutely. Mr. Engel? Oh, I'll get to you.
I really don't have much to add. I think Ms. Eklund came up with a couple of good ideas as far as additional parking. And trees, I have no preference as to whether they're just cut down to ground level or we grind them down. But I would like to see this, get off of square one so we can, get this thing started.
Okay, Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, just a couple of items. Page 48 references the work schedule, and I mentioned this to Brianne. It says the property is available for work 7 days a week, 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. Maybe I might be flexible in that, but I really feel like that might be an invasion of privacy somewhat for the neighbors if there's a lot of heavy equipment going on there. It can be kind of noisy.
We can add some language like they have to request permission for weekends or something to that effect. So if we got backed up in our timeline, we could add that, or.
Well, yeah, and the fact that maybe there's people listening in here, maybe somebody might weigh in on that eventually. The other is just a Scrivener's error on page 50, paragraph 8, next to the last sentence. It says something tracking of grass area by equipment, robes and cables. I think that just needs to be corrected to obviously ropes and cables. It's just a spelling error,
Yes.
Madam Chairman.
Okay. Ropes, not robes.
Yes.
Good catch. Commissioner Wright, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not really. I think it looks good. I think Ms. Eklund's comments about parking and lighting are important, but I don't think we need to include it, in this RFP. I think that can be kind of looked at a later date. But I think it looks good in terms of the trees and the just keeping it safe. I don't think it needs to be grinded down as long as it's, not a hazard or whatever. So.
Okay.
But I think it looks good.
Could I get a motion to have, with some of these changes, to have Brianne go ahead and proceed with this RFP, please?
So moved as amended.
Thank you. Could we get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further? Yes.
Yes, just a question. Will we get another look at this before it's released?
We certainly can bring it back at the next meeting.
Is there any problem in doing that? I know we want to get this going, and I'm good with it so long as I get a last look at the insurance provisions that are in the policy, because the RFI. I could support that if the suggestions that I made are considered. Then I would go along with having Brianne finishing it up and getting it done.
Brianne, if we bring it back at the next meeting with the insurance information that Mr. Rollins wants, is that going to set this back? It's not really going to.
It's 2 weeks. If it's 2 weeks. If we wanted to just make a motion, I don't know, Jacob, if we can make a motion to approve it based upon the Bob's review of insurance, or if we just want to bring it back to the next meeting.
Either one of those options would work. It could be approved subject to a final review with the delegated authority to Commissioner Rollins to address the insurance issues.
Okay.
Or alternatively, it could be brought back.
I'll make that motion
Second.
do I need to say it out loud? I'll make a motion to approve the current RFP with the changes that we discussed, and then pending approval by Mr. Rollins, looking at the specific insurance section.
Thank you.
Second.
Now, do we need to have the other motion?
I'll withdraw the other motion.
Withdrawn.
It's kind of redundant.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes,
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. The approval of payroll and invoices found on page 84 of your agenda packet. Commissioner Ernst?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of payroll and invoices for the amount of $30,304.45.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Joanne, a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. It's time for reports and discussion items. Our Executive Director, Brianne Harms, is going first.
Commissioners, just some brief updates on some of our projects. Ocean Strand, we have a virtual meeting scheduled for January 8th with Development Services. The amended permits have been submitted to the city. We're waiting some responses on those for the removal of the invasives. I heard back from Mike Wika today regarding the ILA, the amendment to the ILA. He stated that he would be back in touch, get back with me in the next week or so to coordinate a discussion on that amendment. I wanted to update you. The batting cages at Sugar Sand are scheduled to start this month, and barring any major weather delays, they should be finished this month as well. So the batting cages And all those renovations will be done this month. Pickleball courts for Patch Reef have been permitted and the work is progressing there. And then we also have, we put the RFP together for the swim center pool geothermal system, which was approved at the start of the fiscal year. Currently, the swim center is closed because the geothermal system is down and they're working on replacing a part. So obviously a very timely moment to get that RFP out and get that replaced so that they don't continue to lose days of service to the community. And then finally, at some previous meetings, we discussed doing a tribute for Bob Langford at one of our parks. And we talked about using one of the pedestals at Sugar Sand. I'd like to go ahead and talk to the Rotary if they're not interested in contributing or they can't do anything right now. I'd like to go ahead and get that designed and bring that back so we can get one of those pedestals dedicated to Mr. Langford and the services that he contributed to the district over the years.
You're saying that Rotary is not interested?
They were. I have to follow up with Dr. Frisch to see if they still, right now the carousel's been closed. So we were waiting for a time for him to come in there and we'll just have to schedule a time to look at it. But if they aren't able to do anything right now because of the pandemic, because nobody can meet or because meetings are complex and complicated now, we could go ahead and get something designed and ready to put out there on a pedestal.
Commissioners, would you like to make a motion to direct Brianne to go ahead and start looking into this?
I'd like to make that motion, Madam Chairman, to have Brianne begin investigating the wording and the cost, because the Rotary, I was about to make a Craig Ernst motion. I'd like to make the motion to Brianne to investigate, the design and for a pedestal for Mr. Langford in honor of his service to the district at the carousel.
Okay. Could I get a second, please?
Second.
Any other discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Did you have any other items, Brianne?
That is everything.
Okay. Our district counsel, Mr. Horowitz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have just two quick items to advise the board this evening. The first is, you may be aware, but on December 29th, Governor DeSantis signed an executive order extending the state of emergency within the state for 60 additional days. So that would be through the month of February. We're currently operating in a virtual hybrid setting at a minimum. This will continue again so long as we're in that state of emergency, but wanted the board to be aware that extension was entered late last year. The other item I wanted to mention briefly was just in response to one of the public comments we heard earlier, which was discussed at the last meeting regarding the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. And I just wanted to clarify for the record, for the public and for the board, that, first, we know as an independent special taxing district created under Chapter 189, the Beach and Park District is not subject to the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. There is a mechanism in the county charter that does allow special districts to essentially subject themselves to the Ethics Commission. However, there's a very specific process that the charter provides for. It requires an agreement or a memorandum of understanding between the agency, which would be the district, and the Commission on Ethics. It requires that agreement provide for funding to ensure that the commission has the resources to perform whatever function they're being asked to perform. And it also requires approval by the Board of County Commissioners for Palm Beach County. So, irrespective of whatever the district and the city might otherwise agree to or be discussing, in order for that to happen, it would require some additional procedural steps and coordination with both Palm Beach County and with the commission in order to open up that door for further communication. So I just wanted the record to be clear on that particular point. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. Those are the two items I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Rollins.
Jake, do you have any idea what the approximate cost is to the district to become involved with the Palm Beach County Board of Ethics?
Offhand, I don't. I know there are a number of districts in Palm Beach County that have taken that step. I believe that the healthcare system is one in particular that I'm aware of, but I'd have to pull those MOUs or those contracts to determine the actual cost. I know not that it's necessarily true in Palm Beach County, but in Broward County, there was some discussion with regards to adding a certain percentage of all contracts to fund those offices. There also was some litigation about 3 or 4 years ago with regards to the funding of the Inspector General's office in Palm Beach County that had to do with those MOUs and how those contracts were funded. So I'd be happy to do some additional research there, but offhand, I don't have a specific dollar amount for you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Horowitz? Because we have to abide by the State Board of Ethics, and we take these, we've been taking these yearly exams online, what is the advantage of being a part of the Palm Beach County Board of Ethics?
Well, it ultimately is a policy question for the board. There are certain things that the Palm Beach County Ethics Commission and Ethics Code may cover that are not addressed in state law and vice versa. There may be certain instances where Palm Beach County Code is more restrictive than state law, which is permissible. But again, if you'd like us to prepare a comparison and contrast, which identifies what those specific issues are, I'd be happy to do that. But ultimately, it's a question for this board, whether it's something that the district wanted to entertain. And if it was, the next step would be to approach the Commission on Ethics and see if it's something that they were amenable to. They may have a form MOU that they use for special districts. We can inquire to see if they have something along those lines. But ultimately, it's going to be a question for the board as to whether or not it's an additional layer of jurisdiction you'd like to subject yourselves to.
Commissioner, what's your pleasure? Would you like for yes, Erin.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, if it's, I'm as transparent as can be. So I would like to see a comparison just to see the difference between the two. I think that would be helpful. But if it's something that shows that we're as a commission, we're being more transparent to the public and it doesn't cost a huge amount of money, then I don't see the harm in doing it. But I would like, because I don't know much about the Palm Beach Board of Ethics and what the difference is between that and the state. So I would like to see a comparison, but if it shows the public that we're being as transparent as possible, I don't see how it would hurt us in any way.
Thank you, Erin. Commissioner Engel?
Personally, I have no preference, like Erin said. If it makes us more transparent to the public, I'm all for it. And if the cost is, is minimal, I don't have a problem with it. I have nothing to hide. The only thing, you can't see through me, but who would want to? No, really, I have nothing to hide. And if it's the mood of the public to have us abide by the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Commissioner Ernst?
Madam Chair, I do have some familiarity with the overall Palm Beach Ethics Board. And I do recall in 2012, some of the things that the city went through and the litigation they went through after to stay out of it. And there's a couple issues that everyone should be aware of. And it's the transparency. There's no question this board has been very transparent on all their activities and what they do, at least from what I can tell and what I've seen. But what was lacking, prior to coming on this board, honestly, was some level of ethics policy and some of the documentation of the procedures, policies, which we have ramped up significantly over the past 4 years. So I don't know if, Leanne has done a number of the different policy structure changes. So we've implemented those over the past few years. What you would get though, is you're gonna have to pay a cost for it. And it's subject to the Palm Beach County's Ethics Board, and it's not an insignificant amount. So it'll come out of our budget. So that's small. I think the most significant thing though is we may not be able to comply with it. And when I say that is there is a lot of redundancy in the staffing and the controls, and that's what the city has found. It's a long process. So you're adding several layers of review and other parts that we quite frankly are not set up to do. And that should be looked at very carefully before you say, yes, let's all do it. We are, a body of 5 volunteer board members with 3 staff. And an admin assistant, executive director, and a facilities director. All of our functions for purchasing are really, should be through the city, but because we own certain parks and things, we're managing the RFP process. That's exactly what the Palm Beach Ethics Board is focused on, that to ensure that there's no fraudulent activity on those bidding type things. So it's certainly up to the board if you want to do that. I'm supportive of anything that provides ethics and transparency, but I think we have to be comfortable that we can actually comply with it or rely on the city to comply with it. And I think that if we do that, you're relying more on the city to do many of the things, and it'll take a little bit longer to implement some recreational activities.
That was very good. And I hope that I'm going to weigh in also, Mrs. Feinberg, so you get my opinion too. I would like more information. The cost is a consideration, but also the strain on the staff, if there is one. I think that this board, as we sit now, is very transparent. And I don't think we need to have any worries about any fraudulent activity with kickbacks or anything like that. I've never seen that in the almost 12 years I've been on this board, but going forward, I think we need to get educated on what it's all about. And if we can just direct counsel to give us a comparison, and also the drain on the budget. So I believe we have a motion. Is that correct, Joanne?
I don't think there was a motion, Madam
Okay.
Chair, but it sounds like there's consensus for our office to do some research and come back with legal analysis, presenting the options and the comparison and contrast between the county code and state law, which we'd be happy to work on.
Thank you, Jacob.
Is that what we really want? I mean, I think what we want is that you can get a presentation from the Palm Beach Ethics Board without, a legal analysis. That's a cost out of the pocket for us.
Is that correct, Jacob?
Well, I don't know if the Palm Beach Ethics Commission will come and make a presentation. I assume that they will, and we're happy to reach out and work with Brienne to make that overture. If the board would like some comparison from our office, we're certainly happy to prepare that as well, whatever the board's pleasure is.
Well, why don't we get a presentation and then go from there with legal counsel? Aaron, did you have something?
Oh,
okay.
Well, what Craig was saying was basically what our staff will have to do to be in compliance with the code of ethics, basically. So that's really what we need to look at, in addition to educating ourselves on the differences, but also to see, that's really what you're saying is really the important part of joining this, right? So, so can the Palm Beach County, can they also come in and do a presentation on the difference between them and the state, and in addition to what it takes to be in compliance with what they require?
Well, we'll
can
have
that
to
all
look
be
into
bundled
that.
into one, or does Brienne have to actually do the research into it?
I'll reach out to them and see what they have. I'm sure they have a presentation that they just.
Okay.
Mr. Rollins.
I'm just going to ask, I assume the city, in spite of the legal issues that Craig had mentioned, joined the Palm Beach County Ethics Commission?
Yeah, they were required to.
It applies to all municipalities in Palm Beach County by law under the county code. Special districts have the option to join in pursuant to an MOU or an agreement.
Okay, thank you, Jake.
Thank you. So, Mr. Horowitz, do we need a motion to ask for the Palm Beach County Commission, or is that just a future agenda item?
Well, I think that there was consensus. We can certainly work with Brienne to reach out, make the appropriate contact, and help her have that conversation.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Feinberg, for bringing this up. It's always good to get educated. Commissioners, let's start with Mr. Engel for our reports with the commissioners.
A couple of things. I'd like to congratulate the officers of the Beach and Park District on their reelection to their respective positions. You guys are doing a great job. I agree with Bob. We've got a great team. I wanted to touch briefly on the subject of the Boca Raton Beach and Park Foundation. Since it's the appetite, as I see it right now, of the Board of Commissioners not to involve us in a nonprofit, I'm going to reach out to members of the community to see if it's viable to have some kind of arrangement similar to Friends of Gumbo Limbo with maybe some kind of link to the Board of Commissioners. But whatever it is, it will entail a minimum of involvement for the board and a minimum, if any, liability for whatever transpires on the part of the board.
That's a great idea.
Okay, and other than that, I'm fine.
Okay. Commissioner Wright?
I have nothing, just Happy New Year and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
That's it.
Commissioner Ernst?
Couple things. First, I was wondering, going back to the two things in Brianne's presentation, if there was an estimate of the time frame on the pickleball at Pat's Reef completion.
Our best estimate, we're waiting for a final, but my best estimate right now is going to be early February.
So sometime in February. That's good. That's good, great progress. So I think everyone will be happy with that. The second thing related to Boca Chica and the almost two things. We did complete the RFP for general ideas and sent that out there. Is that correct?
No, I had emailed you that, and then at the last meeting, we tabled that and did this maintenance first. We can add that to the agenda for the next meeting for those ideas, but that is not out there right now. We were waiting, I'm sorry, we were waiting until we get the amendment back from the city to make sure before we go out for any ideas on doing anything differently.
Okay. Is there a commitment then on the time frame of when we would be doing maintenance? Because this RFP is going out there, and refresh my memory on what's in it. If you're going to get to a deadline at the end of, I think it was February 21st or something like that.
Yes.
And you're
yes.
going to get responses, and then we have to say what, when.
Well, we'll bring them once we go through the responses. Hopefully we get a good amount. We'll bring them to the meeting and then have a recommendation and walk through them all. We can set up individual meetings with you too to go through them if there's a lot of them.
Okay.
I think it was February 12th. It was earlier than the 21st, I think,
Well,
wasn't it?
Yeah, January 29th was the walkthrough. If we get this advertised, we want to give people ample time to respond.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it had the 12th on there.
Yeah. Is that a Friday?
I mean,
so.
if you need to adjust it, that's fine. So you may want to, I don't know, bring that back if we have to, but I think you need to give sufficient time. But I guess I don't want to take away from the fact that, I mean, we're starting going down the path of investing in maintenance, investing in cart paths, investing in trees and a lot of other things. And the big picture issue here is, what are we doing out there at Ocean Breeze? And what's the future? Is there going to be, I think that part has to get out to the community. So I understand the need to have the ILA, signed up by the city. There's a delay from that perspective. We were hoping to get that done out there into the public by the end of March. Now it's January, so I think it's going to get pushed. We were talking about doing this in December, so this really should get out there end of April. But what is it that why are the two connected, the ILA and?
Well, just advertising that we were changing anything before we have that amendment from the city, but we can bring it back and talk about it and have it ready to go so that when the amendment's done and signed off on, we can put it out there. I think we were just, because the amendments, because the ILA right now that we're in says that we're building a golf course, I think we were just waiting until that was changed to advertise that we're doing something else, just from a legal perspective.
So Jake, from a legal perspective, do we have to have that ILA done before we advertise asking for ideas?
Not necessarily, but if anybody were to look at that ILA, I could certainly see them asking for clarification as to what the district's intentions are, because they may not be aware of the backstory and the fact that there's a proposed amendment that we're awaiting the city's input on. So it doesn't prohibit or restrict the district from asking that question, but there is still an ILA out there that contemplates the future development of a golf course.
Yeah. So listen, I think we have to be realistic here that there is no golf course that is going to, there's not 27 hole, there's not going to be an 18 hole golf course at this point in time at Ocean Breeze when the city already has a commitment to get a golf course not but 2 or 3 miles away. So at some point we really need to focus on, and we're losing time is my concern, is we need to focus on getting the ideas out there of what's going to happen with the overall design of this, 212 acres. And I think it's very important to get those ideas and get a discussion surrounding that. The ILA is a second priority from a overall perspective because there's some things in there that we need flexibility for both parties on it. And then the third priority is what kind of maintenance do we want to do if there's kind of an A, B, and C maintenance. There's A, it has to be done now. Anything that has to be done now, a tree branch broken or whatever it is, has to be done now. That I'm totally on board with. But then there's all the other things that are kind of nice to haves. Are we redoing cart paths out there? Are we redoing a parking lot? Those are all nice to have things, but they're simply not a priority until we know what we're doing with the rest of it. And I don't see, I just am a little concerned about the RFP, what we're asking vendors to do. Yeah, they will redesign the golf course for us, get it all ready and the parking lot's ready and stuff, but I don't know that we really are ready to do that.
Well, I mean, we're doing the fencing to save money on rental fence, right?
Yeah, but he's talking about the RFI was to get all the ideas out there, like whether it's from, I'm echoing, but the ideas from whoever wanted to submit an idea. There was very little, when that motion was made a couple meetings ago, it was very broad. There was no real qualifiers. And then at the following meeting, we had a discussion about hiring a design firm, doing an RFQ for getting qualifications, having people submit their designs, actual companies that do this. But I think what Commissioner Ernst is talking about is a very broad request from anybody who has an idea, any business, company, developer, whatever it is, who wants to submit ideas for how to develop that property, submit them to that RFI.
That is correct.
Mr.
I have
Rollins.
one question though too. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Rollins has the floor.
Yeah. I know Craig put this idea out there probably a month ago. How many ideas from the public have we received?
Well, we've never advertised it, but we have heard, people want to park out there. They've submitted their different ideas, Mr. Chaffee about a fishing pond and different things like that. We have some real estate companies have reached out about buying the property. I've expressed that we can't sell the property, but no formal submissions.
Yeah, well, my opinion, we really need to look at a design firm who can take the ideas from the community. The problem we have now is that we cannot have a public meeting where the public is present, can see a presentation. So that's a problem in trying to have a charrette. But I think that's really what we need to do. As far as the property itself, I think we need to clean the property up. I don't see the need to explore walkways and repaving the car paths because we really don't know what's going to go in there. And I don't want to put expense into a path and then come back later on and remove it because we have some other features that are going to go in there. So to that, I agree with Craig. But I think if we're waiting on the public, it's going to be hard to gel it together without some professional helping us through that process. And I don't know that we're going to be able to do that until we all get our COVID shots.
Commissioners, has anybody thought about just paying down our loan in the interim until we can form an idea and we start paying down the loan instead of putting money towards something we're not sure how things are going to progress?
We don't have the money to put down.
Well, I'm not saying do it all at once over a period of time. I'm not saying Mr. Engel,
If
you
we
had your
did
hand up.
If we did something as simple as doubling up on our payments, so we're paying, I think it's what, 1.8 million,
1.6.
1.6. So if we were paying 3.2, it, you know, just as a start, doesn't mean we have to pay 3.2 every year, maybe more, maybe a little bit less. But if we added to our payment, that by itself would shorten the time frame that we'd have this debt to the city. I think it's a great idea. And I think it's a very productive use of the money, and it will enable us sooner rather than later to go ahead with the development of this property and not have to worry about, you know, getting approvals from city council as to whether or not, you know, they're interested in doing A, B, or C. It can be what we want based on what the community wants.
And we could still do the charrettes in the meantime to get the community input.
Exactly.
Well, we're still going to need the city's approval, though. I mean, that's not going to be paid off for
Well,
years, even if we
eventually
double
will
it.
be. Yeah.
I mean,
Eventually it will be. And the more we pay them every year, the quicker we'll have the loan paid off.
Right, but we want to get something open sooner rather. I mean, we don't want to wait till it's paid off to get something open there
Oh, no.
and developed.
Yeah, but I'm talking about developing the entire property, which we couldn't do right now anyway. So yeah, get something.
Well, we can as soon as the ILA is amended,
Yeah, well.
right? And that's
all
being
due
worked
respect to
on.
the
So,
city, they don't have a great track record with getting.
oh,
back.
let's just be positive for 2021. And
Okay.
I think
If you're willing.
I
to
think
be
if we
positive,
want to
so
get
am I.
going, and we need somebody, we need a master planning
Yes.
company. They're doing, I forget where I saw this. It was like Martin County. They're doing like some huge park up there. We need to put out an RFP for a master planning company to come in and organize this whole thing, because we don't do that. We can't do that for this huge piece of property. They need to come in and they need to organize some, I mean, they must be able to organize public input based on a whole year of having COVID at this point. They're probably pros at it. So I say we get an RFP written for getting a master planning company to come in and help us do the steps that it takes to get something planned over there based on what the public wants and needs. We have that needs assessment. They're going to have to take that and incorporate that into this park as well. So I think that's our first step at this point. And I don't think there's any harm in doing that, waiting for the ILA. I think it's assumed everybody knows there's not going to be a golf course there. And if there's
Right.
no legal, you know, issues in terms of getting that written and putting it out, what's the harm, right?
Okay.
Get a jump on it.
Mr. Rollins, you had your hand up.
I lost my train of thought and all that.
Not you.
Well, you know, it's back to Aaron saying the same thing that I was saying, but in a different way. You know, a consultant to help us gel these ideas, I think, are important. Waiting on the ILA from the city, you know, it's like the answer was a week or so. I don't know what that means in terms of response time. And I think, Brian, I recommend when Mr. Wika or anyone over there suggests a week or so or next month, give them a deadline, a specific date, so we know, because it's hard to operate without that.
Okay.
But I think we definitely need to bring formalize how we're going to go about this process. And I think having somebody who does this, like Aaron mentioned, put out some ideas, have the public weigh in, you know, start something. And I agree. It may be that we could start something over on the east side. I'd rather do that than to start paying down our debt. But
Aaron, was that a motion that you wanted to make?
Sure, I'll make a motion. Put that into a motion, what I said. I'm
Well, can we
freezing
just
cold,
continue
so I'm
discussion
mumbling a
for a
little bit
minute?
too.
Look,
I'll make a motion to have Brianne take what we had discussed in terms of, well, no, you'll have to rewrite it. I mean, you'll have to start over, I guess, right? You'll have to do an RFP for a master planning organization to come in and help us start the process of organizing the design for Ocean Breeze.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
yes.
Okay, Mr. Ernst.
So there's a lot of things going on. Okay, let's address the payoff of the Ocean Breeze. You know, I think we said it was 16 million. We had 5 million reserved for this year. And if you assume you have 5 million for the next 3 years, that's 15 million. You can pay it off in roughly 3.5 years. I do not recommend that. I think we need to conserve cash. And I do not think that you should do that because you already have a fixed term agreement with the city who is, you know, allowing us to pay 1.8 million, and any additional cash that we have will be used to pay any kind of new park expense that we're going to have, any kind of consulting fees we're going to have. We need to conserve cash. Number two, we had several, you know, motions done in the past couple months, and so are we throwing those by the wayside, or what are we doing? So my number one thing for our group is to set your priorities for the year and focus on it. And so I believe our number one priority for the next year, 2021, is focusing on Ocean Breeze and Ocean Strand. Ocean Strand is easy. We're saying we're just going to open it up, and then we're going to develop a master plan around that. And Ocean Breeze, we need an overall concept. You can hire a consultant like EDSA if you choose to support hiring a consultant. But what I'm suggesting is go to the public, ask for the public to give you transparent bids or information. Yes, there could be a pickleball center. Yes, there could be an apartment building. Yes, there could be a golf course there. Let people give us all the ideas so that when that consultant comes in, we have all that information, and then we go to the charrette process and get other input, and then we get the consultant. So what we approved last year was a broad brush approval of something that somehow got tied to the ILA with the city. And then we also approved already a consultant to come in and do that part of it. And then the third part is what we talked about tonight, which was a maintenance proposal. Okay, so what I'm trying to suggest, and I'm probably not saying it very eloquently, is get the RFP out for a very broad brush thing, to get the ideas out there, get the consultant in to help us with the charrettes, with both the community and with the city. And by sometime in the spring, I hope to gosh, we can have a meeting with the city and we can discuss some of these things, because it's going to be done, I see, more in a partnership. I do not see us doing it by ourselves, because I feel like we bought this, you know, 212 acres with the assumption it had a hotel on it, with the assumption that it was going to be a golf course and a training facility, and with the assumption that it was going to be the new municipal golf course of the city. Those were all things that got taken away. And so I do feel like there's an opportunity to work with the city, both on the municipality, municipal golf course that they have out west that we'll soon have come October. And that's important. The third priority for this district needs to be getting our boundaries straightened out. You know, we just had the whole boundary system, you know, messed up. We're paying, we received money in for the last year, and I think our bylaws are outdated. So you got to get that straightened out with the whole thing. And it's the time to do that is this year for submitting next year in 2022.
Thank you. Mr. Rollins.
Wow. Craig, you started out perfectly. And then I don't know how we ended up helping the city out on Boca Country Club.
You lost me, Craig.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think that the two issues we focus on this year, and you mentioned them, number one, Ocean Strand, number two, Ocean Breeze. And I think that with first item, Ocean Breeze, I believe that we need to have a consultant as a gathering place for the ideas of the public to come in, so they can start developing some kind of concepts that we might be able, we may want to use. I agree with you. I don't think we should pay off our debt. I don't think we get, I think we need to keep ourselves cash rich as much as possible. We've got a contract. I think we've got a reasonable interest rate on that. But I think that so long as we concentrate on these first two items here, Ocean Strand, Ocean Breeze, I think that'll keep us busy. And I think the way to start that is with a consultant to help us. And we don't have to decide this tonight because we're under commissioners' reports. But I think that's really where we need to focus on. And I think that Craig was spot on with that.
And we do have a motion by Commissioner Wright that was seconded. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Wright.
Agree with you on the not paying additional. You know, you get a 30-year loan, why would you pay additional fees to it or additional payments to it and you need your cash? So agree with that. Craig, I totally get the idea of trying to get ideas from the public, like a broad thing, but I think it's just extending the timeline because somebody could come in and put, I mean, you could put anything there. You know what I mean? Like, and it's great to get ideas, but I think straight away we should bring in a consultant to say, okay, let's gather the ideas, find out what we should put there, then do a couple of different ideas on what the possibilities could be. I mean, we could go two separate ways, but I think your way might take a little longer, but it might be better because we might get some more ideas. I don't know. But I think if we get a consultant, they'll be able to gather the ideas straight away and be able to organize everything to see what we really need and want versus saying, hey, here's a 215-acre piece of property. What can you do? Which is great because we'll get so many ideas, but it might not be what we're looking to have there. You know what I mean? Which might extend the timeline, but that's.
Whatever it is, you know, my thought just in discussion is that we need to have those ideas out there and, you know, come October of next year, I think the residents at Boca Chica would like to know what they're dealing with. And at least we have a framework. You know, from my perspective, I've heard a lot of different things informally, whether it's a championship pickleball center, whether it's indoor tennis. The reason I don't necessarily think you need to be very open is that when Nadal proposed the thing at Pat's Reef, it got put down pretty quickly because it was going to take away from what they had there. But if a tennis center was to go over into Boca Chica, are you going to get that through the consultant? That's a public-private partnership to do that, and it could be a very useful destination for the community. I don't know. Or it very well could be a short course and dry shipping range too. All options are open, but I think it has helpful. If it means getting the consultant on board quicker to be open-minded and do that, I'm all for it. Get going on it, and I'd rather spend our time on that to move forward.
Well,
Good.
don't
I
you
think the needs is that we paid $25,000 for a needs assessment, right?
More than
Teamed
that.
up with the city.
50. We paid 50.
Yeah, we contributed
50 grand.
Yeah,
So I think that should
Absolutely.
be like a huge component of
maybe.
looking at the city and looking at what we need. Should be, right?
Aaron, you cited the Martin County facility. Should we direct Brianne to go, you know, to call them and see what they are doing and how they're doing their charrettes and getting the public involved?
I mean, I can't remember if it was somewhere up there, like Stewart, Martin County area. And yeah, right. I sent you
Yes.
the article.
Yes, I
think.
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could always talk to people. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to call the
Yes.
question on Aaron's.
Thank you. Brianne, you're looking very pensive there though. Did you have something to contribute?
No.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else have anything under commissioners' reports?
Well,
Yes.
sorry to.
Oh, I forgot you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Rollins.
Yeah. Just a couple of things. I was asked about the tower at Gumbo Limbo and the pumps and pipes and pumps over at Gumbo Limbo as far as the bids that the city's putting out. And understand they may go out when, Aaron, Brianne?
I believe this month.
Okay. See if you can get an exact date and time as when they're going to send them out and when they're due back.
They're on the city council agendas. I think pipes and pumping was supposed to be last month, but I will get all those dates and send them out to you.
Okay. The other thing is that I wish I guess I missed the millions of dollars that we could have saved had we been a member of the Palm Beach Ethics Commission. I've been on this commission for 25 years, and transparent is a word that certainly describes our operation. And anyone that suggests otherwise hasn't been to our meetings in the past 24 years. If they had, they would know that was the case. I appreciate and I want to investigate the Palm Beach County Ethics Commission. So long as it's not conflicting with our state, I would support consideration. I'd want to know what the economics of it are and what the expense is going to be involved. And if it means slowing us down from doing our projects, it's hard enough to do our projects without having to report to another party. We already have that with one partner, and it's very time consuming. But the final note is I wish everybody Happy New Year. I'm delighted with Susie, Craig, and Aaron as our leadership on our commission. Thank you very much for your willingness to continue to serve in that capacity. And I wish everybody a safe and happy and prosperous 2021. We need to get 2020 behind us in the rearview mirror.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for your support, not only my fellow commissioners, but our staff and our council. You guys have been wonderful, and we'll just keep going forward and do our very best to serve the community. I too think that we have been very transparent, and if anybody has any questions, please ask me. I'm here for everybody. I'm here for the community, and I want to continue to do so. I did have the opportunity yesterday morning. I got up early and went to the Naples Community Pickleball Center with their 50-some courts, and it is impressive. Mr. Travieso is very, very correct. It is quite a complex. It was mobbed. So, it might be something for us to consider when we have this new RFP. Who knows? So let's listen to the public and see what they have to say as well. So if you all will have a very happy new year and a safe one, that would be my wish. And Brianne, what are our other future agenda items other than the Ethics Committee presentation?
Ethics, we also have the, we'll come back with next meeting with the RFPs for the Boca Chica property, and we'll keep progressing on that.
Okay, sounds good. Mr. Engel?
I move to adjourn.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Joanne, a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned. Stay
Thank
safe,
you.
everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.